Hi, this is Mashnu, and I would like to show you one of my own over-the-board games. I played this one at the chess club about a week ago, and well, I think it has some instructive value, so that's why I wanted to show it to you. I was playing white here, and I opened with d4. My opponent answered d5. I played the Queen's Gambit, c4. He played c6, the Slav defense. Now knight to c3. He took on c4. I played e4, controlling the center and wanting to recapture on c4 with my bishop, and my opponent played b5. This is a way of playing where well, black actually defends this pawn on c4 and tries to use his pawn majority on the queen side. I answered with a4. That's the theoretical line, and here my opponent played actually too fast. Without thinking, he played his next move. He played knight f6, and that's a big mistake. It's wrong. It looks like a very natural move, but it's not correct. Just to show you what the correct line is to play b4 here in this position. b4. That's the good move. Then white has to play knight to a2 or knight to b1. Knight to a2 is, I believe, a bit better. And then black can continue with knight f6 now, attacking e4. So actually we can say that he switched the move order, and that was a big mistake. Now let's go back to the game, because he played knight f6 without playing b4, and because of this I could play a takes b5, c takes b5, and now comes the important difference. I can play e5 here. So his knight has to go away. He went to d5, and then I took on b5 with my knight. So I had won a pawn, and c4 is going to fall. He played e6 now, looking for some ideas here on b4, bishop b4 check, trying to get some compensation for the pawn that he's losing now. Bishop takes c4 was played. Now bishop b4 check, bishop d2, and he castled. And now I thought, well, I'm a pawn up, I have a good position. What I need to do now is to castle kingside, have king safety, and then look for ways to continue the game. I already was thinking about trading this bishop for this one to have more control over the square d6, so I could play knight to d6 after that. Actually, I could have done it right now, play bishop takes b4, and after knight takes b4, bishop to d6, but you know, I'm not in a hurry to do that. I can also simply prepare castling kingside, and after my king is safe, I can always take on b4. There is no hurry. So I played knight f3. My opponent continued with bishop to b7, placing this bishop on this nice long diagonal. By the way, if you want to prevent the taking here on b4, a move like this, bishop to e7, is not good as well, because then I can either castle kingside, still have a good position, or I can take on a7. Rook takes a7 is a good move, winning another pawn. So actually black doesn't have much play here. Bishop b7 was played, and I took now on b4. Knight takes and castle kingside. After knight to d7, now I went with my knight to this beautiful square d6. So I have a very strong knight there. Perhaps you know a game that was played between Kasparov and Karpov that is also known as the octopus game, and it's called like that because Kasparov, it was played in 1986, and I believe it was the game number 16 of the match. Not very sure, but I believe it's 16. And Kasparov plays at a certain point his knight to the 6th rank and controls actually the whole board with this knight, and that's why it's called the octopus game, because this knight is like an octopus that controls 8 squares around him and cannot be chased away by an opponent's pawn. Well, we continue. Queen to b6 was played here. At this point, I remembered a video that I saw with a lecture by Jennifer Shahadi, the women grandmaster. She gave this lecture in the St. Louis Chess Academy, and there is a video on YouTube. Perhaps you would like to watch it. And in that video, she says that we need to use both sides of our brain, meaning that our left side of the brain is, let's say, the logical side that we use to calculate, and our right side of the brain we use to verbalize. And that's actually what I did here. I did calculate if I could play here knight to g5, and if I could play for a direct attack to his king. But the variations were quite complicated. So then I started verbalizing, and I told myself, wait a minute, what if I simply trade this knight on d6 for his strong bishop on b7? He will have no strong piece any longer. And then after that, I can try to bring my other knight to d6. For example, by playing queen to e2, knight g5, knight e4, knight e6. And then I can win this position, perhaps slower, but I'm sure going to win it. So this decision took me only a few seconds, while before that I had spent about 10 to 15 minutes calculating all the variations after knight to g5. You know, sometimes it's good to calculate, but sometimes it's also good to verbalize and to talk to yourself and draw conclusions without much calculating. So what I did here is knight takes b7, queen takes b7, and now queen to e2. With the simple idea, knight g5, knight e4, knight d6, controlling the position completely. Also this queen on e2 connects both rooks, and it defends b2, and it defends also c4, so it's a very useful move. Now knight d5 was played. I played knight g5, and he played knight to f4. So now he has two threats: to take my queen on e2, and he threats, of course, checkmating one, queen takes g2. So I have not many moves here, actually only 3 possible moves. Queen e4 is one, queen f3 is the other one, and queen to g4 is the last one. Now I still saw options of attacking on the king side, and I didn't want to trade queens because of that, although the endgame would probably be better for me, but still I wanted to keep the queens on the board. So queen g4 was played, and I was already looking here for possibilities of taking on e6. But first of all, the queen is attacking this knight on f4 that is undefended, so my opponent played knight to g6. And now it was the time for calculating. I calculated, what should I do? Should I take with my knight on f7, or should I take with my knight on e6, or should I take with my bishop on e6? All possibilities. Or should I prepare this and perhaps try to advance my h-pawn, h4, h5, or f4, f5? All different possibilities. After some calculation, I decided that knight takes e6 was winning. if here black would take back on e6 immediately, that's not what happened in the game, but if this would have happened, f takes e6, and then simply bishop takes e6. And now the king moves to h8, and now I can retake here the piece that I sacrificed, so I have two connected pass pawns in the center and a winning position completely. So let's return to the game, because my opponent saw this and decided then to play knight d7 takes e5. I took the knight, and now he took f takes e6. Of course he cannot take knight takes e5, because then I play queen takes g7 checkmate. So f takes e6 was played, and here I continue with queen takes e6. The thing is that there is another characteristic in the position, and that is that the queen on b7 and the rook on a8 are on one diagonal. It's a light square diagonal, and I have a light square bishop. So you can see what my next move is going to be. After king to h8, I moved bishop to d5, attacking the queen, winning material after this. So the game continued with queen takes b2. I took the rook, he took back, and now, as if this is not enough, the last hope of black, this passed pawn on the a file, was taken. I played rook takes a7. Black cannot take back, because then I give checkmate on the back rank. Just to make it visual, this, then simply check and checkmate. Knight f8, queen takes f8, checkmate. So here queen b8 was played, and the game just lasted one or two moves more. I took here, he took here, and I play rook to c1, and with the deadly threat of rook to c8, winning the queen and checkmating soon. So here it was all over, and my opponent resigned. But actually, what I find interesting is this this concept of using both sides of your brain. Sometimes we need to calculate, and sometimes we need to verbalize and talk to ourselves. Actually, it's good to do both things during a chess game. And I don't know who it was, but there is a grandmaster who said the difference between an amateur and a grandmaster is not that the grandmaster calculates better or deeper. The difference is that the grandmaster knows what to calculate and when to calculate. And I think that's absolutely true. Many times amateurs like you and me, we spend too much time calculating lines that are not really very important. We lose time, and sometimes talking to ourselves about the position gives us much more ideas and consciousness about what the lines are that we should calculate and what not. Well, enough talking now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time on YouTube. Goodbye.